I want to be there when the people start to turn it around, when they triumph over poverty. I want to be there when the people win the battle against AIDS. I want to lend a hand. I want to be there for the alcoholic. I want to be there for the drug addict. I want to be there for the victims of violence and abuse. I want to lend a hand. Send me.
ANC, I'm ready to save. I'm ready to save. To Mamina. ANC, to Mamina. To Mamina. To Mamina. ANC, I'm ready to save. I'm ready to save. To Mamina. ANC.
Now, I want to start by welcoming you all. We will deal with the agenda thereafter. And as I say, unless my counting is not correct, Comrade Tasnim, I don't see 37 people plus. At least I expect 37 people plus 6, ne? Yeah, plus 6, which is our municipalities, because we invited all the chief whips, which is about 43 people at least. And I can't see all of those people. That's one. Two, I painfully going to present apologies that I've received, but we'll make a statement around that. But I wanted to start somewhere even before I go to what is in front of me. I'm not going to put it there. I said they must not flag it. I'll talk to it from where I am. That we attended the. I want to make things last time I that's disruptive. We attended the National Lekgotla, the National Caucus of the. We attended the National Lekgotla of the ANC. We attended the National Caucus Political School for 3 days in Cape Town. And that's where I wanted to start. Because at least the chief whip of the National Assembly belong to the generation that at least I belong to. I just realized that there's a bit of a gap of age between me and her, and therefore concluded it means I joined the youth league when I was still very young, because I thought I'm always at the age. So I want to start there, because Comrade Pemi was when I was a treasurer of the youth league in the province, she was also a national treasurer. And Comrade Lebogang, you will know that in our times, a night before the conference, we'll have a meeting of the leadership and talk about the leadership question. And the reason why we'll do it a night before, the reason why we were doing it a night before, is because we did not want to be seen as people who do not respect democracy. So you allow your branches and everybody else to participate in that respect, but ultimately you then come in order just to manage for political management purposes. So we took that decision that we must hand over the leadership of the youth to the next generation. And we met in Tshwane, and Comrade Lebogang came with the leadership collective that we needed to hand over to. I know that Comrade Socks, at some point there was a discussion that, no, let's review this thing, we can't give this ones. I'm sure we looked at the nature of delegates that were there, because to some of us it was like, a change in the character of the Youth League, given the delegate. And I know Comrade Lebogang was very happy. He said to me, you can stand up and talk to those people. They are not going to listen to you because they are of a particular generation. So I left when I was 33 years old, and I think George was a bit younger than me. And he was saying, no, but we're still young, we can still lead this thing. And we agreed that no, time has come, we need to hand over that. Back to the point I wanted to make. So just paraphrasing what Comrade Pemi would have said, she started by saying that she's respecting everybody else in that national caucus. Because many of them would have more experience than her. Many of them are cabinet ministers. Many of them have been in the ANC, underground, MK, anything that you can think of in the broad liberation struggle. But she made a point that kutunywe nala. So the point that she was making, that at the given time, she's the chief whip. Now I want to start there, that Comrade, I'm the chief whip here. That's where we should start. And we derive our mandate from the constitution of the ANC, which gives existence to all of us. I try to look at the constitution of the ANC. There is no way where the constitution of the ANC even give effect to a premier, an MEC, a mayor, and so on and so on and so on. You can't find that detail in the constitution of the ANC. But if you go to the constitution of the ANC, you will find this detail that I'm talking about. And go to Rule 19.98, which talks about the role of the province of the ANC, and also the responsibility that it carries in terms of caucuses of the ANC. Now you can see, there we are. So we all exist because that's where we. So for us to be premiers, to be MECs, chairpersons of this and that and that and that, we derive our existence from this caucus. It is the caucus of the ANC that elect you, comrades, to your responsibilities, isn't it? Without the caucus of the ANC, there will not be a premier in Gauteng, because we'll simply decide not to go in that house and elect a premier in Gauteng. But where do we get that power? We derive our power from the constitution of the ANC, Rule 19.9.8. So if you undermine the caucus, just bear in mind that you are undermining the constitution of the ANC. Not me as in person, but as a chief whip and the constitution of the ANC. The second point there is that within that context, therefore, none of us here are PEC members, whether chairpersons or the secretary is not part of us, deputy secretary, no, none of us are. And therefore, none of us here can stand up and argue from the point of those particular structures. Whether regional leaders, branch leaders, none of us are here. Because if you go further to a resolution that gave effect to this constitutional provision, it will tell you that the caucus of the ANC is a special branch within the broader structures of the ANC. And that special branch has got defined membership, right? Membership responsibilities. So some of us will be seated here, will be premiers, chairpersons, deputy speakers, Those are defined responsibilities. But essentially it says all of us here are deployees of the ANC, and therefore we take our responsibility from that point of view. So the only person who can announce such is the chief whip delegated by the provincial leadership. But in essence, if the ANC wants to talk to this branch directly, the provincial secretary of the ANC would come and do that. That's how we're going to be working. So no PwC, Tasnim, nothing of that sort. If the ANC wants to talk to us, the PS will come and say to us, these are the issues that we're going to be talking to. We are worried. Those who are in ESCO would agree with me. I wrote something like the apologies from ESCO members are concerning, and I think we're starting at the wrong footing. Because I'm going to be to communicate some of them. But as I said, I'm doing that painfully so, because I said I don't want to deal with anything called apologies. Primarily because we agreed that we are full-time deployees of the ANC, but also we agreed that having Caucus Lekgotla of the ANC is part of our process, and therefore it is important to do that. I can imagine of a government Lekgotla and MECs are submitting their apologies like that. What will that mean? There are some apologies, of course, from Caucus members, but very few of such. And yesterday we had a discussion as the ESCO to say what is our approach around the issues of apologies. And we make the following distinction that there's something called a leave of appeal and there's something called an apology. And we want to subject all of us to something called a leave of, not leave of appeal, leave of absence. I'm now in court now. I was listening to Mokweng in the morning, that's why. Now, leave of absence. Leave of absence, you will write to us, you will tell us why you are not going to be in a meeting, you will expect approval or non-approval thereof. So if we say no is no, you come to a meeting. Apology is something you do in a meeting. We're seated there. I have an interview with Kaya FM for 2 minutes and so on, or some emergency. There are things that are beyond our control and so on and so on. Those kind of things. Now, personally, I decided that I'm going to go a bit softer on people who say, we're going to school. But don't make it a habit, because we will refuse. Yeah. Because for me, it's a necessary thing, evil to engage ourselves in. We'll go softer to people who are saying we have funeral, something beyond our control. But we're going to be hard on people who are saying, I've got a meeting, a government meeting outside there, and so on and so on. Because you knew that you should be here. Why do you schedule a government meeting during our time? We can't accept that. And I'm raising some of these things because those are the don'ts, the things we must not do. And you will see in my apology that already we are doing them. But we don't want to do those things. Thank you, Comrade Faith. Despite all your difficulty, you are here. Yeah. But thanks that you are here. Now we shouldn't do that. We are going to go hard on such, comrades. We are not going to accept it. And now people that I worked with, many people say to me, comrade, you are very soft, man. So they say, it's fine. We will leave it there. But we'll say it that we are not going to accept those kind of things because we've got a constitutional provision that gives us an authority to act. As a speaker of council, as a speaker of the legislature, I think none of you have got this provision, isn't it? Or Tasnim, can you show me as an MEC? You don't have. At least I have. And anything that is regulated by the Constitution, it means all of us then fall within the discipline as defined in that Constitution, isn't it? So we would do things in that manner. So I want to go hard on those comrades, and we're not going to accept that. It also goes together with when we invite the chief whips from local municipalities, you are technically part of this caucus, and you will therefore be governed by some of these rules that we want to talk to. So we want to make that a request, because I suppose we are working with adults who are responsible enough, who know what is wrong and what is right. And therefore, we're not going to run after people. And I think after this, we will write a letter to the Premier. We will raise officially our concerns, given where we are today, so that they should officially know that we're not going to accept some of the things that we have. Some of them are accepted for now, but going forward, we are not going to accept that, so that we have a sense of respecting each other. You are not going to need a caucus when you want us to defend you in the legislature. And therefore, it's a three-line whip. We all go there because a budget must be passed. If you don't need us, don't need us. Even when a budget has to be passed, don't come to us. We will give members of a legislature apologies as we gave you in that meeting, and we will see whether the budget will pass. Because we accepted your apologies, but what I'm sure of, this Lekgotla will continue nevertheless. But when you are found in that situation, what will be the consequences, or will the outcome be the same, and so on? So we need to treat each other with that respect, because we're all carrying similar responsibilities towards the ANC itself. I thought I must start there, comrades, just to emphasize that it was not that we didn't look at these things carefully when we dealt with these apologies. So we received an apology from, I see you have not given me all these people, but I will remember those. We received an apology from the Premier through Comrade Nomantu yesterday, that because part of the issues there was that he was supposed to come and present the framework today, but he would have made a request that he will present that framework tomorrow. I suppose they are dealing with some of the issues there, which we agreed to rework our program accordingly. But also that there's something called unannounced visit. These things that I spoke about. Because that thing can be done any other day. Or why today? Because we've got a caucus. But I've already given a context, and I don't want to labor the point. So we would accept that, particularly that I think they said around 12 o'clock they will be done, and we looked at when are we starting, and I said, fine, it will make sense. Linked to that apology will be Comrade Bandile, who joins the Premier in that activity. We also received an apology from Comrade Mamabolo. This thing that I said I'll go soft to. He has to attend classes, and I said, but you can't go there. And then he showed me that it's compulsory for him to be in that class for the 2 days. If not, he will not be able to make it in terms of the qualification he has to achieve at the end. And therefore we agreed there that for today and tomorrow we will allow him to do so. Comrade Lebogang, bereaved in the family, he indicated that to me, and then he would be leaving. He tried to make some arrangement to get a plane late in the evening so that he's here and he could not get it. So he will be leaving. What time are you going to be leaving? Yeah, because he thought we started, because the other time he said, what time I started at 9 o'clock? So he was here 8:30. Thank you for that. Only to find that we're starting at 11. So, Comrade Sputla, the same thing, bereaved in the family, somewhere in the northwest. He described to me, because I had a discussion with him, the place is too far and all of those kind of things. He has to take families and so on, because I was trying to push that, come here, you leave at night. He could not make it, but we allowed him to do so. And that's the issue there, because it's a difficult question to deal with when there's a very big family. It's like when you are sick and I say, no, come, it doesn't work. Comrade Gogo, we all know she's still observing the cultural practices that we have as Africans and so on, and so she can't be with us. And then Comrade John PC, he is in hospital, sick. Let's those who are praying, let's pray for him that he should recover soonest and be with us. Even in that bed where he's sleeping, he was able to talk to us and say, I am still here. I'm not in the position to make it to Lekgotla. Comrade Jongizizwe, one of our chief whips, he will arrive late because there was a prior arrangement in terms of his work, and we accepted as such. Comrade, I don't want to call you by your surname. Tuli, yeah. Hey, I wrote the same name. Comrade Tuli. I'm not good in names, ne? I forgot even my children. That's my problem. It should be a sick, ne? By rage. Yeah. Comrade Tuli is doing what I don't want us to do. I only accepted because there's a minister coming and some expectations from herself. So she will be going out, address that, and come back. What time are you doing that? At 1. And you will come back again. And this is the thing that I say we don't want. It must not happen again. We shouldn't do that. Where else did I leave anybody outside? That's it, ne? Oh, Comrade Mapita, there. But you see, he discussed it with me even before we had a date. So I know that this is not a story. Before we could have a date, and then all of them would have to be there. He has to be there. Yeah, he's got some work at home, and as an uncle, he must be there. So we are releasing him this afternoon, anytime this afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, we are big. We khuluma zonke nezinto. Mangekho lo msebenzi uyama. So we had prior engagement and discussions with us, so we accepted. Deputy Chief Whip, what? Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. Okay, it's an emergency. It must not be an apology. Let's treat it as an emergency. It's coming back again. And that's it. Comrade Leseho, due to medical condition, is not going to be with us. He went for operation and he's still nursing that. Yeah. So he has communicated this thing well in advance with ourselves. Now, just after this approach, just think about it. Hey, it's a caucus of the ANC that is preparing towards a motion of no confidence against the Premier. What are we going to do? with all these apologies. Now, I don't know in terms of the rules of the legislature, is that sitting meeting a quorum without us? Can there be a quorum without us? That's the big question you must ask. It is. It will proceed. Yeah, think about it. The question is there a quorum without us? And we must be factual. There will be. Quorum is quarter. That's facts, comrades. I want you to have facts where you are. So that sitting will continue, and that sitting will debate, and that sitting will resolve on, because they will first start by electing a speaker and so on, and then fulfill everything that must be done, and then they will proceed. And there goes Gauteng, and they will ask why. And then I'm telling them the story I'm telling you. Will the national accept that? No. Now, that's where we are, comrades. Eba, ungathi lento yakho isitakile. Asa move ya no what's happening? Oh, I got lots for energize you. If resist, ke ntho tse ile tsa rona Faith Mazibuko le Makama. Ke ntho tsa rona le late Makama. Ha re batla di minutes tsa PEC, computer e freezile. And at that time we didn't know what a computer is. We'll just listen to him until I get it right. Kanda kwala di minutes. Comrade, let me once more welcome you to this sixth term of the caucus, which we need to engage on what constitutes the mandate of this term. And from where we are, that is pretty clarified. As I said, the National Lekgotla, the Provincial Lekgotla, and where we are. We'll speak to those specifics as we proceed. But what concerns us more as the office is where we're coming from. We're fresh from elections. The provincial elections where we got 50.19, a phenomenon which is a danger to our transformation agenda, as we all must agree. But comrades, we must take into account that in the next coming 2 weeks, we will be having local government elections. And therefore, this Lekgotla must be able to respond to that challenge. That in 2 weeks' time, Comrade Dube, we are going to have a local government elections, and this Lekgotla must respond to that, given the 50.19 that we got at the provincial level. And I'm sure you might work out your numbers and translate it into local government level and see what it gives us. It is for that reason that we welcome the PS. Thank you. It is for that reason that we have invited Professor Mcebisi Ndlenjana just to come and engage us on, from an outside point of view, what are the challenges that were faced up at local government level, so that we can conceptualize and be able to deal with the challenges correctly. Because I can tell you, comrades, I've seen the report of the AG, and I listened to public discourse, and you come to a conclusion that people, quite frankly, do not understand the issues there at local government level. For them, all they see is corruption, corruption, and corruption. And perhaps even ourselves as institutions, how we present our reports around local government, we create that particular picture. That this is nothing else but corruption. So his input will help us to take a particular tactical posture. But also, the ANC Caucus is holding its sixth term with significantly reduced electoral victory, as I said. It is my submission to this caucus that the margin, even though allows us to continue in serving our people, very importantly, it points to the immediate possibility that our revolutionary gains could be reversed. Hence, our problematization of the 50.19 should not be reduced to only parliamentary representation, but a revolutionary task of fundamental transformation of our country. So it's not about seats, 3 seats that we have lost. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about our revolution being in danger. We have made significant strides since the last 25 years, but more still has to be done. The apartheid legacy is still very alive and is still with us. The National Democratic Revolution primary objective is precisely to undermine this system of racial capital accumulation. Yet also appreciate that fighting against racial capital accumulation will be insignificant without allowing all the people of South Africa a democratic to a vote. For that reason, this 50.19 happened when the system is still intact, albeit with African voters willing participant in an electoral democracy. In a context of advancing the NDR, the electoral participation is equitable if economic access has been leveled, which in our case, it is not. And I think Comrade Msimang made this point, that the BE is being undermined in our country as one of those elements of us ensuring that economic emancipation do happen. It is for this reason that we need in this Caucus Lekgotla to engage with this 50.19% phenomenon as a regressive move in advancing our NDR, as it hides the thin veil fact that our democracy can never be sustained in coexistence with the racial oppressive system. In the past 25 years, as part of governing Gauteng, we have used parliamentary legislative houses as instruments to drive systems to deliver basic services to all communities, in particular the Africans one. And as we know, as co-members, we spend a bit of time in this fact because we have a new portfolio whip who has to focus us as caucus to how to ensure that service delivery happens. One point I want to demonstrate, comrades, is that we're doing well as government in Gauteng with regard to issues of basic services. For instance, 96.8% of our people have access to water. Only 7.40% of our people have no access to electricity. And mainly those will be found in the peri-urban or farms and in the informal settlement. 89% of our people have got toilet facilities. And 88.10% of our people have access to refuse removal in this province. Now, really, if you put that together and juxtapose this with what just happened on the 8th of May, it leaves much to be desired. The big question is, where did we go wrong? Or why are we going wrong? What is the problem with us? P.S. My personal view, which cannot be articulated here, but I'll just whisper to you, is that I think the brand ANC is in trouble. So we need to spend a bit of time there and check how do we correct the brand ANC. Did Nazareth help us to resolve the problems of the brand ANC, or did it give us more problems? And I'm saying it has given us more problems rather than resolving the problems of the brand ANC. Because student of marketing would tell you what you do when your brand is no more marketable. And we fail to do that in Nazareth. That's me talking now. To an extent that you could easily conclude that we have two ANCs. And we have demonstrated that because we failed even to have one spokesperson of the organization. We have two spokespersons, and ultimately everybody was a spokesperson of the ANC. And that on its own impact on the brand ANC. And we must accept that because in 2004, people appreciated this thing called the brand of the ANC because of these realities. And they gave us that necessary majority we had. But from 2007 onwards, downward sliding, what are the issues there? And we need to, and leadership is one of the people who reflect the brand. And if you don't have the correct leadership, you will continue to have these problems around the brand. Yesterday I shared some of because even in the school, I like the OR school because we speak our minds. I've realized that. In the OR school, this question of the brand was engaged. And the issue of the leadership and how we are contributing towards damaging the brand ANC. And one comrade stood up and said, there are comrades who were talking in the context of social media, and they said, there are people who are really contributing towards damaging the brand, and these are our own comrades in the movement, comrades we trust, and so on and so on. But when they engage there in the public discourse, they impact really negative here. There are kind of delinquencies against the brand itself. And one of these comrades went on and said, Comrade Mbalula, Comrade Tito, Comrade Mzwandile Masina, these comrades are impacting negatively on our brand as the ANC. I looked at him and I liked him because he was very brave. Now, two things happened there. Firstly, caucus of people who were there clap hands. I'm not sure whether it was on approval, but there was some rumbling, whether it was a protest against the statement made. Two more comrades who spoke actually confirmed it. They say, yeah, you are right, these people. So I'm sharing that with you, comrades, to say, in Gauteng, do we have such? And if we have such, what is it that we're going to do? Many of us, comrades, will know that in the ANC, the best way to deal with problems and challenges is when you are managing the truth. Where I come from, in our culture, many of us, where we're coming from, if there was an issue surrounding a particular comrade, we will send a delegation. The delegation will ask you a simple, did you do it, yes or no? That's where we start. Because even if we're going to manage it politically, we must know what is it that we're managing. And I want to make this example concrete. When the life as Dimeni happened, where were we? Both as the ANC as an organization, as the caucus of the ANC, as individuals given certain responsibilities, the Committee of Health, where was it when all of these things happened? And comrades, can we stand up here and say confidently that we have dealt with the matter? That we told the truth, and on the basis of the truth, we have dealt with this matter. And I'm going to be raising this thing, you will see, comrades, throughout the work that we're going to be doing. Not because I want to attack someone or want to prove that I'm better than any other person, but simply because we don't want any life as a Dimeni to happen again in the province. Because it can happen in different folds. I'm not sure what worse that can happen in police department, but it can happen. It can happen in sports, it can happen in infrastructure, It can happen even in the legislature itself. And the point there, when we raise it, is because, and we'll raise it here, you will not hear us raising anywhere else. We'll raise it here because it must remind us, because if you look at that in detail, given the work that we must do as a caucus, oversight work, committees scrutinizing the departmental reports, but none of us could see this thing. Then there's a problem there that we need to deal with. But the point I was demonstrating, comrades, is that we're doing well as Gauteng. We must continue to do the good work that we are doing, but this phenomenon must be part of us. My postulation in attempt to distract the 50.19 phenomenon is that electoral participation has been inflated above the historic task of disrupting the racial capital accumulation. So our people, they are no more worried about, so we can tell them about the National Democratic Revolution and all of those good things that we talk about. That's not where they are now. Young people want work and they want work now. Your conceptualization is good for us, but it might be not good for them. And is it Sankara who made the point that people do not eat policies or something of that nature? Access to parliamentary representation also allowed class and race corruption into a system that we operate in, which enabled the status quo to remain, albeit in a representative system of legislatures. Is that true? In other words, Madam Speaker, have we transformed? Gauteng was under TPA by then, Transvaal Provincial Administration, and then a legislature was born after our elections and so on. Some of the remnants of the TPA were co-opted in the system, they were part of us. Have we transformed to an extent that we can be confident and say we don't have those remnants anymore in our system? And that question goes even to the executive and it goes to committees. Instead of establish new state institutions to nurture a developmental state which disrupt the racial economy, we allowed the Dickens camouflage in narrow national Africanness to devoid of class as an advance of the NDR. The point I've been making to many comrades. We no more arguing points. Pravin must be dealt with because he doesn't like Africans. Something of that nature. All of us buy in the story. And so it goes. President Cyril Ramaphosa is managed some way in Stellenbosch. I want somebody to take me there. Because I've not been there. So some way in Stellenbosch, and we all buy to that. So in opposing Stellenbosch, we tried Saxon Wealth. Unfortunately, it was closed down. And I'm sure Stellenbosch is still in operation. And if you go to students in the school, there's a narrow sense of African nationalism that is developing in the institutions of higher learning. Now, that's why Malema makes sense. Because as Comrade Badula correctly defined him, tomorrow is an Africanist, he's a revolutionarist, he's a Marxist, he's everything given, depending on where he's standing. But there's that phenomenon that is rising within the young people of our country, that if you don't talk something close to black, you are not making sense to them. And I see many of our comrades are becoming victims of that. I was sharing a story and saying, in the 80s, we used to have very difficult engagements, particularly with the Black Consciousness Fellows, who questioned the non-racial character of the ANC and the Freedom Charter. And we needed to justify why we need that kind of a society going forward. But today it is easy for comrades of the ANC. They speak even to the extreme of what those comrades of Black Consciousness would be saying. What's the issue there? Will the project of non-racialism continue in our country, or will that project fail given some of these things that are happening? The 50.19 phenomenon is a testimony of how the short-term tactical consideration of elections allowed the revolutionary movement to abandon the economic struggle. Because essentially people are saying, we are not doing the right things that you're supposed to be doing. The mainstream economy is still in the hands of whites who are nowhere as black people, and therefore will not be able to give us our vote. This phenomenon is a normalization of what we once termed the colonization of a special type, but this time meaning a majority of previously oppressed grudgingly voting to keep the system of opulence in the hands of the few. That's how our people are looking at the situation as it is now. The anecdote of Gauteng is 80% Africans, 1.4 whites, 80%, 1.4 whites demographic, 37% of population is between the ages of 20 to 39, 65% of the population are born in Gauteng, 17.7 stay in informal settlement, for 54.6 fully own or paying off their houses, 20% of the working population earns between 6.2 and 25,000 per month, 10% of the working populations earn between 25 and 100,000 per month. This is the story of Gauteng, which tells of good service and generally people with shelter and young province, but we still had that 50.9 phenomenon. This story in which 80% of Gauteng population not voting for a party which liberated them. The Soweto it's where things were happening. But how many percentage of those population are now voting for us? And we thought let's flag this up to yourself as a caucus of the ANC so that we deal with basics, because sometimes we think there are certain things that all of us know about them and we don't want to talk about them. And my sense that let's talk about the basics in order for us to get this right. Hence, we'd like to have us Hence, we'd like to have us, as we ponder on this ANC PC resolution, to be reminded on the need for us to ensure that we deeper ideological engagement on the trajectory of the ANC. If we are still be truly a revolutionaries, how we deacons among some within our ranks hailed as radical. If ANC is to reverse the hegemony of counter-revolution, this can be done while at the same time with leadership on flaunt instrument to disrupt the racial economy by giving billions to foreign companies while the local SOT who could have done a better job. I'm hoping that as we conclude the Lekgotla, our cadres development will be sharpened to help us more to reclaim the high ground in traumatizing these challenges that we are faced up with today. In conclusion, comrades, the 50.19 phenomenon is testimony that the ANC has more to do to fully transform our economy to enable our people to freely participate. The local government elections, which will be happening in the next coming 2 weeks, will be a watershed one. Our short term, 2 weeks. I'm not making a mistake, comrade. 2 weeks. Local government elections are in 2 weeks. No, 2 weeks. I'm not making a mistake. Our short-term tactical patronage-driven selection of what councillor will even erode the popular support the ANC will enjoy in our communities. Our proportional system with an unstable faction-driven ANC will ensure that the 50.19 becomes a normalized, as I said, in terms of the CST of our time. Let me conclude by challenging you to ponder on what Thomas Sankara said, which captures our 50.19 phenomenon dilemma well. And I hope you are not using the same quotation. I'm becoming your student. Yeah, in case it's there. Our revolution is not a public speaking tournament. Our revolution is not a battle of fine phrases. Our revolution is not simply for spouting slogans that are no more than signals used by manipulators trying to use them as cash weights, as quote weights, as a foil for their own display. Our revolution is and should continue to be the collective effort of revolutionaries to transform reality, to improve the concrete situation of the masses of our country. Close quote, Thomas Sankara. Thank you very much, comrades. So, comrades, we will proceed with our program. Go back to the first day and we'll ask the PS, Comrade Jacob Howen. One of the things, after this you will be leaving, and is that family thing that I spoke about, the difficult questions to deal with. He's got a family, unomsebenzi naye. Umalume. Ufana nomapiti. Faith, come back to us. So, Comrade Faith, come back to us. I think amaphoyisa yathukana zonke izinto in their management. Now, Comrade PS will present. After he has presented, we engage. After we have engaged, at any given time, he will leave us and then we will proceed. Agere Comrade Dolly, thank you. Comrade PS.
Usibambo ngasiyekele Oleva tambo bisandla sam wetambo ba Usibambo ngasiyekele phambi sandla sa Oleva tambo yesandla sam Oleva tambo phambi sandla sa wetambo ba Amandla. That's better. That's better. Yeah, that's better. Ayatuma makhosikazi. Ayatuma makhosikazi. Ayatuma makhosikazi. Ayongene balam. Tuma ayatuma makhosikazi. Tuma ayatuma makhosikazi. Ayatuma makhosikazi. Ayo. 40-60%. 60%. You are better now. Yeah, you are better now. You are better now. Bening Tusa. Bening Tusa. You know, the most difficult time to address people was during the List Conference. Nobody was smiling. So, how to Michael Sheva felt everybody's like. So now we should be relaxed. Deputy Chairperson, I was energized yesterday to be in the PGC of SADU. And I thought we're no longer doing that. We were comfortable. Thank you, Chief Whip, the ANC leadership, the Deputy Chair, the EXCO members, members of this caucus. My apologies indeed that I have something that it was difficult to leave. And I wish Walter Sisulu was alive to advise me as to what do you do in such circumstances. But the chief whip persuaded me to come, and because of discipline, I had to come. So if I leave, don't take it as if I don't respect caucus. I do respect caucus. The input I'm going to make is on behalf of the leadership, in particular the POBs. And I want to premise my input from one article that Comrade Jeremiah Karl Marx wrote before he left Paris. And he was writing about the old and the new. And his articulation, he says, while there's a need and a necessity to destroy the old for a good purpose of bringing the new, but you must build the capable leadership for the new. So he says you must consciously build the capable leadership for the new. So you don't just remove the old and replace with not capable leadership for the new, because that's distraction. So the new must be capable. And I think sessions like this one, they have that intention. Because all of you are new in your positions. And that new must be created to be capable to do the task. And this is how I want to premise our discussion. The second premise, it's from the acceptance speech of a leader who got into power by coup. But when he spoke as if he was elected democratically. And that is Thomas Sankara. You would think he was elected democratically because he says, the will of the people must forever be respected. Yeah, he says the will of the people must always be respected. So for me, that's how I think this session should find ways to deal with these two premises that I'm making. The creation of the capable new and the will of the people. Comrade Madum. In one PC, we had a long debate about the will of the people. Comrade Sox, do you remember that debate? We had a long debate about the will of the people. Today, we're no longer debating that. We agree with Comrade Madum that the will of the people, it's important. So elections are gone. We've done the placement, appointments, deployment. We're done. Everybody now has their positions. Just to report to you so you know, we still have to conclude the replacement of councillors in Tshwane. We still have to replace the speaker in CDB. So those are the only two outstanding replacements we are doing. And then the PEC will be called to replace the two mayors in the West Rand. And once we are done with the State of the Province address, effectively we can say the ANC has closed the chapter on governance, hands over to deployees, and focus on organizational development. Would have loved to go to the State of province address having concluded these tasks. But these tasks are not quite easy. They are complex. And that's why we said to the mayor in CDB and the MM, don't push us to conclude, because we'll make a mistake in the process. Just allow us to take time. And I think we have realized this is how we are working things in the province. We may irritate other people by being slow, but at times it is necessary, because you would know that people would come with very easy ways. And when you engage them, they realize, Comrade Deputy will tell you, some of our fellows came to us saying to us, it's urgent, we must change tomorrow. We kept them. After 2 months, they said, no, we agree with you. Actually, we don't need to change people. And because we said to them, don't rush on decisions, in particular as it relates to names, people, comrades, and all other criteria, because you'll make a mistake. And when you rush, there's a possibility that you would be thinking at that moment. So we'll conclude this task by mid-July. And then we hand over to you. Governance is now yours. At that time, we'd also have dealt with the objections, and people would have healed, and people would have accepted, and people would now work and focus on the organization. So I thought it is important to take you into confidence of the work we're still doing just on governance. We had a session with the Premier, and me and him also met, and we agreed that, Comrade Panyaza, don't be philosophical on the address on Monday. Because when you deal with politicians like current members of parliament, the opposition, they don't understand philosophy. So when you say a dream, baibitsa iphupho. Yeah, but a direct translation, but and it constitutes the whole speech. 9 members speak about ulele. So you can realize that the level of political maturity in the national parliament is so low. The opposition parties are so low. But we then said, media loves low politics. So don't come with philosophy. Come with tangible programs. And I guess I made that mistake. And then he said, no, but you're dealing with my confidence. That means write again and bring my team to add on some things. And we're saying, speak about Vaal and Westland. What tangible programs will we have for Vaal and Westland? You know, comrades, in Westland, how siwe ke train ya 7 o'clock to Johannesburg? You wait for another train ya 7:45. And if that train is delayed, you will arrive in Johannesburg at 10 or 11. This thing they experience daily. During exams, the children there were late for matric exams, and I was there in a station with them because of language that some schools in the Western areas do not have Sotho. They must go to Lufenze in Orlando. Right? That thing can need as a story. And when they are late, there's an MEC called Panyaza. He doesn't create a room for them to write exams. They are late. And then they're excluded. And then they fail. And then when they fail, they apply for a second chance. So we said, let's, on public transport and on safety in the province, we don't want story. You know, that attitude of the combi courts must come exactly on safety. It must come exactly. So Combi Corps now, one Combi Corps. Of course, in the Lekgotla, we formalized that there's nothing called Combi approach in the politics of the ANC. It was a shock. Bandile wanted us to adopt a Combi approach on everything. So Bandile says, on everything, it's Combi. His philosopher is faith. So, comrades, we are here just to share with you a few ideas we have. And these ideas are not new. As I said, the basis of these ideas is that we need a capable new to serve the will of the people. And that's how we should characterize ourselves. We are asked to speak on a theme that the Caucus executive has defined this term as action-driven, disciplined, and political clarity. So I think it's going to be nice in the legislature. I wouldn't want to spend much time on discipline because I'm talking to discipline cadres of the movement. And I argued with comrades when we were discussing what do we say on discipline. And I said, we've said enough from the first caucus and so on. One thing I've realized with the term discipline is that it is so subjective. It's very subjective. And at times it's very disappointing to see your leadership, those who came before you, those who are trained and seasoned, when they are ill-disciplined, they don't call it ill-discipline. They call it expressing our opinion. I have a right. But they know that they are acting in an ill-disciplined manner. But I want to talk more on action-driven and on political clarity, because political clarity is quite very important. As I acknowledge the chief whips from municipalities who are here, I think that at some point we must have a joint session with all councillors, MPLs and MPs from Gauteng. Just all of us to come and talk about how do we govern Gauteng, Chief Whip. Because at times there's a disjuncture between how we govern Gauteng from people who sit in the NCOP who don't speak about Gauteng issues. But they're sitting there in the NCOP and they say it's Council of Provinces. But in the agenda, there is no e-tolls. And the people of Gauteng don't want e-tolls. But the people in the NCOP, they don't talk about e-tolls. The people in the NCOP, they don't talk about the seats in Gauteng. The people of NCOP, they don't talk about the failing rail services in our province. Equally, the people of the legislature, they don't talk about the fact that there is no bus system in the West Rand. The only region in our province that the people of West Rand, they don't have access is the bus. When everybody has a bus. And those who sit in the Gauteng province, they don't speak about that. It's not their issue. But the people of West Rand do not have a bus. Their hospital is in Kagiso. From Kagiso, it's Bara. Liratong in Kagiso. If they don't go there, they use N12. They find their way to Bara. If you go to Bara, Dr. Masuku, you find people with addresses. You know, Baetang, Bakena, Dipluf, Bashebentu, Bangole number ya team, Bakene Bara, Bangodise number 8. But they have representatives who sit in the provincial legislature, who say we are people's representatives. But what are we representing? What are we representing if the transport plan speaks about Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg? The extension of how trains speak about Johannesburg, Soweto, at least one side of Western. So there's a lot that we must do, and we thought we should share with you that through your work, find way to raise these issues. Comrade Sox made an example one day, but I want to concretely make that example. A member of the legislature asked the MEC, MEC, when are you going to build the school that you promised the people of Pakistan? The MEC answered, we are working on the plans and soon we will be processing the building of a school. The member says, thank you, MEC. The speaker asks, any follow-up? The member says, thank you, MEC. Do you have the school in Pakistan, Simunye? No. We promised. There's a second member who asked the MEC. Now, I'm talking about ANC members. No. Because we must strengthen the question we ask. The type of a question we ask would improve our collective oversight role. So we ask as individual members, but we ask for the PCO where we are deployed. But equally, I ask this member, did you ask the MEC this question before you write? Because you are not at a weaker position. You can call the MEC. And she said, no, I didn't call the MEC. And she went further why she didn't call the MEC, and I don't want to go to that detail. Anyway, for clarity, both of the members are she. Both of the members are she. Comrade Chief Whip, we have deployed 37 this term. We once deployed 47. And we are gradually decreasing. It is also a known fact that we had to negotiate with the IFP. We had to talk to the IFP and we talked to the bishop, of whom both were offered MEC positions by the DA. So now it's an open secret that the DA self, we know that James, that's the real DA. Selfie, it's a real DA. He goes and negotiates. So ACDP shows us the message. And the message says, we are 36. We will take the premier. EFF will take the speaker. We'll give Freedom Front 2 MECs. ACDP, IFP. ANC, there are 37. One of them is not going to come. One of them is going to abstain. Yeah. So we are taking over Gauteng. And they even promised the incentive of what is going to happen to individual members. So we talked to ACDP and IFP, they assured us. We pray that this one member comes at work, and we pray that this one member doesn't abstain. So when we're sitting there watching you, it's with the spirit that we hope these guys are wrong. The deputy chair was so panicking that he wished you could come to everybody. That tells you the problem that we have. That this 37 is a big problem for us. Right? Because what it does, it creates a sense of mistrust amongst ourselves. While we have an agenda to deal with, we have a problem of trust. Right? Which we shouldn't have. And I think in this Lekgotla we must affirm there is no need for us to have lack of trust. This Lekgotla must assure us. Right? I was just worried about numbers earlier, Chief Whip. Because in the first meeting you said because it was called by me, that's why people were not there. And this one is called by you. It may reflect on you and Sistogo. So 2 months in the office, you can't convene a successful Lekgotla. But it's getting better now. The point I want to emphasize that, comrades, can we declare in this Lekgotla that there is no need for us not to trust each other? Right? We just say that thing has a trust and fedile. Right? We need to trust each other, and we have full confidence in all of you as cadres and disciplined members of the ANC. There are 4 pillars that we want to suggest that if we can focus on them, perhaps we will approach firstly 2021 and the next provincial elections as a better team. One pillar is the ability to mobilize society on our vision. Do they know what we stand for? Do they associate themselves with what we stand for? Because at times we think what we want is what the people want. And we miss the will of the people. So we do what we want, which is fine, if it's good. But we must mobilize society to share what we want. And if they don't share what we want, it means what we want doesn't represent the interest and the will of the people. It represents our interest. 2, we need to develop organizational systems that ensures that the state is able to meet. Now that's capable state. Can we meet the objectives we are setting for ourselves? Do we have a state that is capable to meet what we want? If we want education and skills revolution, do we have sufficient and capable teams in the departments that want the same goal that we want? 3, we need to build, linked to 2, we need to build the bureaucracy that we can trust. Leave the other details of the Combi Court. Ask one detail of that story. Why is a leader recorded? Leave the details. Why is your leader recorded? It could be 3 things, 4 things, but one of them that is dangerous is that it could be that we want everything said by this leader to be on record because we have ourselves to protect, not to serve the leader. So what it means is that you may have a bureaucracy today that has positioned itself as a cabal against the executive. So it happens even in municipalities. I know in one municipality, I won't mention here, that we requested money with the deputy chair. Give us money. We want to help this institution. And one of our caterers, they said to me, no, Bala, you have to phone the MM yourself. Request from the MM. So I asked him, now, how do I phone the MM and request money as the secretary? He said, because if you don't do so, we won't have it. Was that story untrue? It happened. So the secretary called the MM and the money was paid. So if we don't look at the bureaucracy we have, if we don't, in the NEC, Lekgotla, somebody says, hey, we can no longer speak freely with the DGs, with these guys here. How? Didn't we say the DGs, HODs, MMs are ANC cadres? But we're afraid to speak in their presence. It's because we've allowed the bureaucracy to operate on its own. We have ourselves to blame. We have allowed it. Even on this story I'm saying, we have not made a point about the recording. We have let the recording. We've made a point about the rest, which we were right. But none of us has made a point about the recording. So what it means, it possibly means that all of you, the speaker, deputy speaker, the chief whip, you may be recorded every day in what you think is a senior management meeting that must take strategic decision, where you want to influence through the ANC way and say, but HOD, this thing is important for us who are in the elections. And then you are recorded. Then suddenly we wake up in the morning, there's a record that says the MEC said there's ANC. So these people are not afraid to expose the party in the campaign. So this third area, it's quite critical that we must find a way to talk about it frankly. Do we have the bureaucracy on our side? If we don't, what do we want to do? Because we can't just leave it and accept. And then have a structure called the executive of executive. And then the deployees are subjected to the bureaucracy, when bureaucracy is supposed to be subjected to the executive and to the politicians. And this by no way I suggest that we need to be arrogant and disrespect human beings, workers. But the point I'm making is the bureaucracy in the province our bureaucracy? Are we confident that we have the right team to implement the vision? Because we may spend here 2 days, Chief Whip, talking about the vision when we don't have the drivers. And will be no different from other terms, because we don't have drivers. So we talk, like the principal of the Chinese school who said, ANC is good to talk and sing. Talk and sing. Because we don't spend time on the drivers. And some people even argue. No, I spoke to 2 officials in one department, and they argue that, but you say these people are ANC. We've not seen them in any program. We've not been them in door to door. They were not in the student movement. They were not in the civic movement. They were not in the youth movement. They were not in the underground. They are not from prison. Right? But never the guy. And then he asked me a question. Give me your HODs in the province and give me the former activist that was in prison, in the youth, in the civic movement, in the student movement, underground, and so on. And I said, yeah, no, I'll answer you after I speak to all MECs. So get the MECs over. Bega boshiwe. Bega se exile. Bega se ngoye. Bega se Limpopo. Kana kingile Limpopo. Teflop. If I were to do that, guy. And that's the question we must ask about the bureaucracy. Not because we are unfair or because we are new, we want to change things. It's because we want the right drivers for our agenda. Our agenda is missing the drivers. And we spend a lot of time, with the best movement on producing strategy and documents, plans and policies. But we're spending less time on the drivers. And I want to urge Caucus to think about how do we get to the drivers. If we were to improve our oversight, how do we get to the drivers? One of the things that at times we would not agree with members of the executive is the notion that when the department appears before the committee, it's like it's the ANC appearing before us. So we just make an assumption, ANC. So when we speak, we must protect them against the EFF and the DA. Because they're ANC people. But we have never been with them in the PGC. Of course, some might remember them. That Comrade Secretary Youth League. But that's all what he has. His name is former Secretary of the Youth League 17 years ago. But when they come in the department, we say, no, the ANC people are here, so comrade, don't speak like that. And I'm not advocating an attack to the department. I'm just asking a question. Do we have the bureaucracy that we want? Do we ask them the right questions? Are they with us in the agenda? Do we share our resolutions with them? When they speak, particularly the ones we invited in our Lekgotla MECs, when they speak, do you have a sense that they speak what we were speaking together with them? Do they articulate the same targets and the same frustration with you? Because we were them. The rest of the department, do they know what we resolved? Because if we don't do that, all what we're going to do will be like an empty shell. We are governed, thinking that we are governing. And that's why it may be important to invite the Chief Whip of SWAPO and the Chief Whip of Chama Chama Mapinduzi into our caucus, just to learn a lesson. We once visited Namibia, and we arrived at 10 to 5, Madume. And we had a check given by the ANC treasurer, Comrade Lindy. And the hotel would not accommodate us. We went to the Chief Whip's store. The Chief Whip of SWAPO called the bank manager and said, there's a crisis here. I don't know where will these children sleep. Do something. Something was done. I can't give you the details, but something was done. And we paid the hotel, a delegation of the Youth League. And since ever I kept contact with that man because I thought, hey man, this is the Chief Whip. And then I asked myself, will a Chief Whip in South Africa call a bank manager? The only Chief Whip in South Africa who tried to be strong got arrested with the Mercedes deal. Yeah. Just to exercise authority, got arrested. And none of us commented on that matter. Comrade, the second point we want to talk to about it's the Lekgotla reaffirmed TMR. So the Lekgotla said, TMR is an agenda we must pursue. The pillars of TMR known by all of you, the 10, those of us who are soccer fanatics, we used to call it 442, right? Right system. Swallows could not master that system. That's why they were relegated. 442. So, what we want you to do as caucus on your oversight role is to continuously project the 442, the 2 in the reindustrialization, the 4 in the transformation, the 4 in the modernization, and continuously listen to executive when they speak. And when they speak, you look at the 442. And when you see that none of them speaks on the 442, you now know we have a problem. And what is the problem? We're going to lose elections. Because TMR gave people of Gauteng hope, but they have questions. They have questions as to what have you done in the modernization of public transport infrastructure. So they're questioning you, what have you done? What have you done in modernization of the economy? Now, I'm saying these two because they are visible. It's something you must see. You know, when the economy is growing, you see by people. You know, Madam Speaker, you see, today, I saw that legislature has started working. You know, it's practical. Just the number of laptops open, their color and their name. You just see, no, legislature is on. Yeah, they are working. The economy is like that. You must see people. You must see people active in the economy. So we suggest, as the ANC office bearers, that as we have reaffirmed TMR, can it be a life experienced, not a story told? Can we experience it? You know, yesterday I had a meeting with SASCO, so just to divert a bit. And they were saying to me, no, Balaman, Kasboni say it's Hepo 1 million. Asboni say man no bala usikhuthaze nje ubabizela abantu abayi 1 million ubafake eholweni sibabone. And I said no, ngibabonile abayi 3. Remember in Ekurhuleni there was evidence, right? They were there. But Sasko was saying, but show us. And then I got one beneficiary, comrade deputy chair, who said, no, I was called and I was taught how to write a CV. Which is good. But that's where it ended. Right? So I said to them, no, I promise you will get the team that is working on TEPO, get the Youth League, get SASCO, get YCL, get every youth organizations. Let's sit with them. They will show us TEPO 1 million on the chart. They will show us the future, because TEPO 1 million was about creation of jobs for the youth. That is our campaign for 2021 and the next election. It's on the table. But if we can't have evidence, we'll be suffering and we'll have a problem. Let me go to the second point before the last. We have agreed as officials that there's a need to improve the PCO work. And we had started with Comrade Sox as from our Chief Whip, that what we need a team of public representatives linked with a team of ANC leaders in the PCO. So if you have a PCO deployee, councillors are also deployed in that PCO. The REC, if PCO is a zone, deploys a member there. The PEC members share themselves in the region and goes to the PCO. And then we have a team of leadership that works in the PCO as a team. Because for now, we don't have a solid team of the PCO. So when you give me a list and say PCO, Runback, do you know that PCO and Runback? Who knows the PCO and Runback? Do you know it? Yeah. Do you call it a PCO? Okay. You must see the team there. So the ANC has a full sense of the constituency work. We have not mastered the constituency work. And maybe Chief Whip invite somebody in the caucus who are in the parties that are applying a constituency approach, like in Kenya or in Nigeria. We have not mastered the constituency work. In Tanzania, parliament sits once in a quarter. The rest of the time, they're in the constituency work. And they report to the speaker while they're in the constituency work. When the executive comes, they have a full package of issues from the constituency and then the full account of the executive. And then the parliament will sit every day for 5 days. After that, goodbye, Dodoma. They leave Dodoma, they go back to their places. Because they've mastered constituency work. Where they are deployed, the constituency must also have closer linked with government. So in our constituency, we're supposed to have closer link with government. In other words, the 10 departments must say in each PCO who is our link there. If you have regional offices, how do your regions link to the PCO? We are governing. It's us, a governing party. So it is us who's supposed to send people to the PCO who are officials who can answer direct questions to boost the constituency work. So we want to sponsor an idea here that relook at the constituency management teams. Build a team of the PCO. Spend time in the PCO. By doing so, we have no doubt that we'll close the gap between ourselves and our constituencies. Comrade Chief Whip, let me conclude on the area you raised on political clarity, because political clarity is something difficult. But it's an objective we can't lose. We're suggesting that firstly, taking from the Lekgotla of the ANC, which expressed an opinion about governing, campaigning as governing, and governing as campaigning, is that we need to build common political goals, identify areas of agreement, and say, on this matter, there's no disagreement. I don't have good examples. I was going to say on ESCOM, or I was going to say on Reserve Bank, but so we need to properly identify areas of agreement, and we need to ensure that members of the ANC, PC, deployees, and everybody embark on both political and academic development. Comrade Fasa. we need to grow together. Right? And the only way to grow together is, among other things, to share material we are reading. In the ground floor of the Walter Sisulu, will soon be opening a library. And we're lucky today, outside, there's a fellow who's selling books. Thina bakhulele ekhaya township Tami besithengisa ama-case kithi ebeer. So ayaphela ama-case. Right? Yaphela beer, stock out. Let's demonstrate that culture kudala ukuthi izinto ziyaphela. Kuphela lezi incwadi lezi ezilapha. Lo muntu ahamba stock off. And then he says, hey, when there's a caucus of the ANC, stock out. Spelling what? So I'm leading by example. I bought 2 books. So join me. Shall I stock out? Then this fellow knows, if you finish stock out, go to the ANC meeting. Ningayenzi stock out samadugu. Ningayenzi stock out samathai. Nenzi stock out saying what? Yeah. Yes. In fact, somebody said, we feed our body every day. We eat, we dress, we wash, we put cream. And then we forgot to feed the brain. So we're an enemy to the body. Because what should carry the body is empty, but the body looks good. So that's the point we're emphasizing. Chief Whip, we suggest that your first Muitaupi journal must publicize the inputs we're doing here. So we'll leave you with our input. We want to suggest that the journal must have debates. We must respond to professors, analysts who speaks on the ANC. So that the Muitaupi journal must be something people are requesting because of its topics. The Thinker. I don't know if there's a leader who doesn't buy and read the Thinker. It's a proper journal. It's a proper journal. It has a debate. It enters you into a discourse. So we suggest that if we were to be correct on political clarity, firstly, what we write in our journal must provide political clarity. And I advise you, just fall in love with the journal called The Thinker. It's quite a good journal. You will not regret on that journal. We suggest that as you engage on the discussions, and some of the items are on the agenda, but we suggest that people must be tasked as a team. Task 2 comrades, 3 comrades to work. Led, of course, by the head of political education and academic development, to develop papers and develop inputs. And we want to suggest that we'll also contribute on one of the input that is called Theory of the Revolution, Growing Gauteng within competing class imperatives. Theory of the Revolution, Growing Gauteng within competing class imperatives. So we're putting ourselves before you. We're saying we're going to produce that discussion paper. What is this thing called Growing Gauteng? What are the imperatives? What are the challenges? What are the material conditions? Do we grow Gauteng within the current class framework? So this is the ANC promise to you. We want you to also give us, because in your agenda you have dialectics of managing political and oversight as a governing party. We want a paper on that. Don't just talk about it. Produce a paper for us. We also want a paper on analysis of the Gauteng opposition parties. A thorough analysis that you are analyzing the opposition parties in the province yourselves. And you produce a paper that the characteristics of the EFF is centered around somebody who has deficiencies. Okay, we'll rephrase. Oh, here I'm right here. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm protected by the chief whips. So we want you to develop that paper, but equally we want a discussion on understanding the significance of local government to the ANC project of renewal. Because you're sitting with chief whips here, right? And as we said that we want immediately after the local government summit, Comrade Matumbe, which is going to be in end of July. We want another forum with all public representatives, and we wish one of you can present this paper, understanding the significance of local government to the ANC project of renewal. We think that if we want to have a solid political clarity, it will be based on the material available to us, produced by us, for our own sake. Because if you check the trends in recent years, the production of material has reduced. But also, if we're to be honest with each other, there are many of us who have not written a paper, who are in positions of leadership. A leader with good track record, no doubt. But there's no paper. We can Google as much as we want. We will not find your paper. Oh, what's the guy in? And you find that we have good ideas. The problem, you don't spend time to put them down, write, consult, research, and produce a paper. And that's why we are desperate when we want people to quote. We even fight with the deputy chair that, why should I quote Thomas Sangara and not Herigwal? Right? And I say, no, I wish to quote Panyaza Lusufi. We don't quote, even now we are desperate. You're not reading the material produced by Assistant Mshudu. So there's gradually, when we say political clarity, we must also ask ourselves that question: what material are we using? There's a guy, I forgot his name. He says, South Africans nowadays, the title of the book is Headlines, from the Headlines. He says, we're debating headlines. We're debating headlines. Something that just comes, Babaga Andile, says Miguel Babaga Tutuzan, we follow. Says Babaga Andile much. When we discuss ESCOM, we're discussing what is in the paper. So political clarity means it's a revision of the classics. It's spending time with literature, but it's also spending time in groups to engage politically. That's the only way we can get political clarity. Some WhatsApp groups, they try. But I followed many WhatsApp groups, they discussed each other. They don't even understand each other on a single point. Whether this is class or this is personal. You read a group, you hear they're mixed together. So maybe what we need to do is to develop proper processes of providing political clarity. And one thing I've been taught, and I'm taught by some of you, you'll never be politically correct at all times. But you will strive to have an opinion. Or what you need is an informed opinion. But if you use a journalist, you'll never have an informed opinion. So our caucus, we urge you that if you agree that your theme is about political clarity, you are imposing a challenge on yourselves. That when you speak, we who are not here must feel that we are not here. We must hear now who are member KMPL no. Remember the old NECs. How about an NEC deploys there? Yeah. Whether it's in Caucus, whether it's in Youth League, whether in SASCO, whether just NEC, you'd hear, yay, fitly NEC. I don't know today. APC fitly, my bit. Yeah, never job fitly there. You'd feel like, so you have imposed that to yourselves. It's not us who gave you the theme. Right? That you are disciplined and you have political clarity. So you have imposed on yourself. We're coming here to endorse what we have imposed on yourselves. We're just saying you have imposed on yourself a good thing. That whenever you speak in a PCO, those who are in the PCO, they will go to the branches and speak as if they are ideas. They will be powerful. Remember, there are people who are powerful like that. You just listen to Comrade Togo. You take it to other people, they think it's yours, right? Because Togo is not there, there's no problem. It's yours. I go to you. Right? So we support you on imposing on yourselves, but we also suggest that there's a lot of material you can develop and produce. There's a lot of material you can develop and produce. We are betterly empowered. Tumsani, you have a laptop now, you know. You're no longer going to COSATU office to type. You know. We have full access to internet. So you have time to produce documents while you serve our people. We want Caucus to have themes that you're going to engage with. We want us to revive the organizational principles. We want to understand the rise of social policy of the ANC or many other policies, the evolution of policy development in the ANC. So you cannot have an economic cluster that has not read Bend to Rock. Just Bend to Rock and say, aye, it's petty economy. It's petty economy. Not one page of Bend to Rock. The evolution of the economic policy of the ANC. So we're suggesting here that what you have chosen, we love. We just want to add to you. We want you to conclusively read and engage on race and class of our province. You can see even in the meeting here that there are questions. We can share with you, Chongziza, that almost every region, when they were doing replacement, they seem to forget that we have an obligation on gender, race, and class. You just read the names, you see, And abana mahloni, by presently, abana mahloni. And then you ask, what happened to the gender question? And they say, unzimanyana, sifana nani. Angithi nani, aniyenzange 50-50. Honestly. You see what happened to the race question? But abayo. One leader said, so we're regressing on dealing with the issues of race, class, and gender. And above all, we think that you must emphasize the engagement and the love with strategy and tactics. Comrade Gidibone, if you go to church and you have a good bishop, he would give you not less than 6 verses trying to present a point. I have read the verses of the strategy and tactics. Strategy and tactics is now written exactly like a Bible. It has a chapter, right? And this chapter tells you now we're analyzing the revolution of our country. Below that, it has numbers. But I have not seen ANC leaders preaching it as Christians do. Christians, the way they speak, you may think we were born Christians. In fact, you may dispute history. That in fact, Simon Frey is the first guy to distribute Bibles in our country. 1884. You may think this thing has long been there. This fellow only last week, 1884, distributed Bibles, and the Xhosa people gave him the mountain, Simon Frey. So today we have a mountain, Simon Frey. It's because he's giving accolades, he's acknowledged as the distributor of the Bible. And what they did, Comrade Bandile, they took a Bible to every drawer in hospital. A Bible in every cell. How can I sell it? First day out, Bible. In hospital, Kenya the fruits, or visit, there's a Bible. In every house, there's a Bible. I thought I'll be the only one in his house that there will be no Bible. But my children were given at school. So I was defeated. But not every member of the ANC has strategy and tactics. It's not distributed like the Bible. It's not emphasized like a Bible. It's treated by one document that is owned by Joel Netsitsenga, and we're waiting for a conference, and Comrade Joel is going to talk about the review of strategy and tactics. And nobody else in any way. Nobody else. Except in the last conference, because he didn't agree with whether it's black or white. He just said it's a monopoly. Then they started saying, no, right? As far as no nati manjelo. So we want to emphasize the point, comrades, about our love for your decision. But overall, we hand over to you with a hope and a trust that the revolution is in the safe hands. The revolution is in your hands. I never knew this until I'm not an MPL. That to be an MPL, it's quite a big task. It's not a small thing. And as I say, I only realize now when I look at you from outside that you are actually the hopes of a nation. Your position and your authority is so big that it can make or break the agenda of the ANC. So the ANC can have good leaders, we can speak, we can do whatever we do. But Walter Sisulu House will never deliver votes for the ANC. it is the work of the deployees that will deliver for the ANC. And as I said last time, and I'm saying today, we wish you all the best in this term. We have trust and faith in you, and we know that you're not going to disappoint us. Thank you, Chief Whip.
Now, comrades, I think firstly, let's not worry about time, because if you look at time, it's like because that presentation that the Chief Whip was supposed to make, we're not going to make it. Seated there, I decided, let me be organic. And in particular, I listened to the clusters yesterday when they were presenting at ESCO. And I listened to what the secretary said. And of course, you are right, Secretary. We had agreed on that theme. And therefore decided that we need to be organic, so that when we conceptualize what are the kind of things that the Office of the Chief Whip must do, it must be coming from your discussion, so that we don't impose ourselves. So we won't do that, because at least there was a welcoming address that we did in the morning, and we think we've shared some of our ideas with yourself. What we'll do is the lunch ready, no? So, and the problem is that you're leaving, because I wanted us to engage on, our comrades, we fight, we will proceed without necessarily engaging the input of the PS. Some of the things that he raised are things that we ourselves must provide answers to, particularly as we're going to engage the reports from the clusters or the presentations of the clusters. He is not here for the last time. Tamia say we will bring him in our sessions, and there would be engagement as such. As I said, it was induction linked with the strategic session as such. What are the expectations of the ANC to us as the caucus? And I'm sure he addressed it. And I'm happy that you addressed it along the lines of the three things that we need to do. We need to be action-driven, there ought to be discipline, but at the core of it, we must bring back the politics. Particularly that as Gauteng were known to be that political province. So we need to do that so that it should not be the thing of the past. And then we got to the good things that we started. We have Comrade Fasin as the principal. And I'm sure as you are seated there, we are adjusting some of your inputs just to ensure that you focus us at the time when you're going to make presentation. So we'll respond on what the ANC want us to do. So I suggest that we take lunch until 2:30, ne? I'm not 2:30. 2:30, yeah. Until 2:30, and then we come back again and we'll proceed with our program. Thank you very much.